Welcome to episode number 18 of This Week in Perfect Team, this show that provides instant community feedback on all new content releases. I am your host, DRC, and with me, as always, is the keeper of the sheet himself, your Kidneys. How we doing tonight, Kidneys?
I'm good. How are you?
We're going to need more hype than that. We are going to need a lot more hype than that. I don't know if I caught you unprepared for that question that came out of left field there, but we have got a huge show tonight, and I could not be more fired up for it. So first off, this is our last show. So This Week in Perfect Team is now 18 episodes old, and this is our last show of PT21. I'm going to miss it. It's been a ton of fun. We're going to take a little break. We're going to regroup. We're going to come back better, bigger, stronger, faster, cooler. We're going to have better memes, although I don't know if that's possible. We'll find out. Sounds like you might have something up your sleeve tonight. We'll find out on that. But for tonight's show, in addition to it being our last one, we've got a ton of cards to go through. We've got 28 cards to break down. We're probably going to go a little faster than normal on some of the ones that should be glossed over there. We've got a killer final segment, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And as I alluded to, Kidneys, you have clued us that there might just be a little fire in the meme section tonight. Is that fair?
It's a little fair. I am going to go out on a limb and say this is our best meme yet. It is a grand finale of grand finales.
Wow. So we're going out with a home run, you're saying here.
I think a home run is quite the alliteration. It is going to be absolute straight fire.
All right, well, let's work our way there. So what are we doing tonight? We are going through the 18 no-name collection cards, the 10 plaque-worthy cards that Chris just dropped on us. For OK Boomer, OK Zoomer, we've got another theme tonight, and the theme is snack time. And so what we're going to be showing Kidneys is 5 different popular snacks from the 90s to see if he can recognize any of them. And then, of course, we'll have whatever garbage meme he'll be throwing at us to try to make sense of. And then lastly, our final segment tonight is Perfect Team Survivor. We're at the end of the road. We are not getting any more cards. And so which cards are your meta, your permanent meta for Perfect Team 21? Who survived? Who made it? Did Roger Connor make it? He was fighting guys all year long. His claim to the first base versus right-hand pitching throne was threatened all year long. He kept taking on potential combatants for that spot. Did he make it? We're going to find out for him, and we're going to find out for everyone else as well. Also, we are going to be doing a 30,000 perfect point giveaway. We'll do that after OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. But let's take a look at a refreshed broadcast schedule here. So on Thursdays, we do this show, but we will not be doing this show next week because we'll have no prerequisite show. We'll have no Chris before us to drop some content. So we're going to be taking some time off. The next time you'll see us on Thursday will be for the Perfect Team Community Choice Awards, which we'll be talking more about here in just a minute. On Sundays, though, you'll still be able to catch me on the Mothership, on the Out of the Park Developments Twitch channel, when I do the Perfect League World Series broadcast each week, Sunday evening. And then on Tuesday, my next interview guest will be Chuck. Chuck's got an incredible computer setup at home. He's got some fun projects he's working on. He does incredible Christmas lights. You don't want to miss that interview. Should be a ton of fun. Community Choice Awards, I just alluded to this. So here's where we're at with it. we have finalized our categories. These are the 12 categories that we are going to be awarding fake and digital awards to various members of the community for this season. We have actually already started. We've already started taking nominations, and I'll do a little command there, and that's how you submit your nominees. So if you want to nominate someone for one or all of these awards, click on that link. Click on that link in the chat there, and then fill it out. And whoever gets the most nominations will probably come down to 3, 4, or 5 per question here. And then we'll formalize that into a survey, and then we'll send it out to the community. And then whoever wins the most votes for each category will win the award. And we're going to do that show February 25th at 9 o'clock. So basically taking Chris's time slot a little bit less than a month from right now. So submit your nominations tonight by midnight. That's when I'll close it down. That's when I'll formalize who are going to be the finalists for each category here, and then we'll start floating around those surveys. And look at the chat right now. We've got Chuck gifting out 5 subscriptions here. So thanks a ton, Chuck. Chuck been one of the most generous supporters and fans of this Twitch channel from the very beginning, and showing it again here tonight. Thanks so much. All right, lastly, to join the DRC Discord, we'll be talking about the Community Choice Awards. We'll be talking about other things in there. Free to join, so just come on in. Now that is out of the way, it is time to jump into cards. First card we got tonight is Luis Castillo. It's a gold. And so the question is going to be rather quickly, is this card a gold tournament card? We've got somewhat low range defense at second base. He is a switch hitter. Switch hitters are certainly boosted by the Perfect Team engine, make them a little bit better than they are. He's a good base runner too. But what do you think, Kidneys? What do you think of Luis Castillo?
I just want to say first, if you were looking at the mission and confused why the reward was Barry Bonds, it has already been fixed. Not that you could have completed it anyway. So the mission is 9 of the plaque-worthy cards. You just need 2 of them, 2 of the 9 cards. So get ripping those diamond packs, boys, and get that shoeless Joe Jackson. As for Luis Castillo, I'm not too high on him. I know API is not too high on him either, one of our gold analysts. Kind of like a noob trap. He's got really poor defense, and he's just not going to hit V-right very well at all. So I'm not really too big of a fan of him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think it's just not enough. It's an interesting card. I actually like the Major League Baseball player, Luis Castillo. He was one of the key and prominent members of that 2003 Marlins team that went to the World Series and won it over the Yankees. But I don't think this card is going to dent that meta. A quick call out to Mac Jacks in the chat, who's gifting 10 random folks subscriptions to the channel as well. Thanks for the support there, and for those new subscribers, welcome into the clubhouse. Next card, we have got Jamie Moyer. Arguably the most fire card we got tonight. We have got a low, high profile here. Low, high meaning stuff movement control. And pretty split neutral here. He's a left-handed pitcher, and he's a little bit better versus right-handed batters, at least in the stuff department. So a pretty balanced card here, and one that compares very favorably to current meta cards that are in the rotation and does so even better. So I think that Jamie Moyer, based on the feedback that I'm receiving, is going to be a card that every gold tourney player wants.
Yeah, absolutely. This is your best gold pitcher. I wouldn't even call it a low high. I would call it a mid high. I mean, these are not, super low stats. Being in the 70s for stuff and movement are very respectable in gold. And then coming in with 97 control, this card's just going to absolutely dominate gold tournaments for the rest of Perfect Team 21.
So Jamie Moyer going to be a gold card that people are feverishly ripping for. And then once we find some Moyers on the auction house, I think the race and the cost to pull one, to get one off that auction house, is going to be significant. So that's something to watch for. Moving on, we've got Jimmy Collins. So we're into diamond cards now. And so as we look at diamond cards, we need to ask ourselves, can this guy play in a main league? Or can he play in a diamond or cap tournament? And so as we look at Jimmy Collins here, we've got a profile that a little light on the contact, a little light on the avoid Ks, which isn't great there. Defensively, nothing to rave about. Certainly usable with the 87 range, and then an average base runner. I don't think Collins is going to be someone that the Diamond Tourney faithful are really hungry for, but what do you think?
No, not really. Below average fielding. Not bad for a third baseman, but not going to play like middle infieldish, and just contact is too low. Void Ks are too low to be a meta hitter.
Moving on, we've got Josh Johnson, another Marlin. Chris was Marlin happy tonight. Josh Johnson comes to us with pretty significant splits, so significantly better with the stuff, movement, and control versus the same side, which tells you that you're going to want to put this guy into your bullpen. And as we look at that move to the bullpen and try to anticipate what the stuff boost is going to be, we look at two things. We look at pitch values, of which Josh has a 93 rated sinker, and we look at velocity, and he's got 96 to 98 on the velo. So you're going to be moving some pretty significant stuff into his back of card ratings as you get him into the bullpen. But is it enough to make him someone that Diamond Tourney players want to get after?
No, I don't think so. He's not terrible VR, but his V left, he's comping against all the wrong versions of the good cards. Tex Houston, Kevin Brown, Noodles Han, except they're the 97, 93, 94. So he's not really going to get that huge stuff boost as it looks at your best two pitches. And the velocity is high, so it's 96, but I don't think even then with his low control, he's going to be respectable.
Quick timeout as Walnut has stolen the show in the chat as he's done recently. 20 gifted subscriptions going out to the community. So for all those lucky folks that are on the receiving end there, welcome in. And Walnut, thank you so much for the support for the channel. You're not quite as toxic as once thought. As Susmanja is a new subscriber. Welcome in, Susmanja. Moving on from Josh Johnson, we've got Elmer Flick. One of the most split-heavy cards you can find in Perfect Team. I mean, look at that versus right profile compared to the versus left. We're talking 20 points on each category, with the exception of the Avoid K, which is kind of rough on both ends. From a defense perspective, the range of being only 77 holds him back a touch. He's got some stock defense in center, so a little added versatility there. And then a little bit better than the league average base runner, driven by on the bases skill as opposed to base stealing skill, in addition to some bunt for hit. So Elmer Flick, an interesting card, one that when you're talking about a left-handed batter in a strong side platoon, you're able to get a very heavy percentage of those plate appearances versus the intended side versus right-hand pitching, something to the tune of 80+%. So you're able to tap into that split heavy side pretty well and able to really avoid the offside pretty well for left-handed batters. But I don't know that the juice is worth the squeeze here, as Elmer's not going to really crush it versus right and be a complete liability versus left.
Yeah, the issue really with this card, I mean, it would be decent enough V right if the Avoid K was higher. So if you're joining us for the first time or you're a little bit newer to the game, Avoid K is really your most impactful batting stat. Maybe other than contact, but Avoid K is more of how often do you put the bat on the ball than it is just striking out. So if you don't strike out, you get the chance to put the bat on the ball, and this card having such a low Avoid K is just going to ruin all those decent V right stats.
And someone in the chat pointing out that if you look at the bat similarity scores, which is something that we haven't talked through too much yet on this stream, so for anyone new, what you're looking at here in this table is the cards within the Perfect Team known universe that are most similar to this card from a back of card rating perspective. And the way to read it is if we're looking at Elmer Flick's versus left profile here, you start with Jared Kelenic. You start with that card, and then you take 4 from the gap. You take 3 from the power. You add 3 to the eye, you add 2 to avoid strikeouts, and then you have Elmer Flick. And the number 2 comp for Elmer Flick versus left is actually a silver card, which tells you just how soft that versus left profile is. Now, the VR profile box there is a lot stronger. You've got some recent cards there with the Edgar Martinez 100, some other cards that were early meta with the Bill Dallens, and then your Frank Thomas 97. But Elmer Flick doesn't have what it takes. Moving on, we've got Heine Groh. Oh, look at that. We've got our first bird appearance of the night. It's not a huge bird. And that's because this card isn't a huge bird profile. So the bird profile is reserved for cards whose dominant trait is power. And so while Heine's best trait is power, it's not so pronounced that you really get that super bird effect here. Even still, though, the 82-75 combination for contact and avoid K, and then 86-77 on the short side platoon there versus left, it's not going to be enough for a card that's coming in and not going to be a defensive wizard at either second or third base.
Yeah, low defense for an infielder on the card, and just low contact. Void K is acceptable, but only if you have over 100 contact, really, for a profile like this. So just 86 to 82 is about too low to get it done. Don't really see it getting played in diamond tournaments either, just because it's a little bit too low and the fielding is pretty rough.
Quick call out to Base Bill 33 in the chat. He just subscribed at tier 1 level, and that's 2 months in a row for Base Bill. Thanks for sticking with us and supporting the stream. Next, we've got Andy Messersmith. And as you look at this card, I mean, the control is just not there. At the diamond level, you need better control than low and mid 70s. And this is a starter, so you push him to the pen. You're going to get a stuff boost there. You do have 2 strong pitches with decent velocity. But I don't think that this is a card that you're going to be rushing out to get here for that pen or for your rotation, just because at this stage in the game, you need better control than what Andy Messersmith is bringing you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Control is such a high value, keeping guys off base, and even though he's going to strike out an okay amount of guys, it's really not that high stuff anyway. His control is just way too low to be playable. You really got to have at least 80 as a relief pitcher, especially kind of on the weak side of split.
And so much of our commentary, so much of our feedback is relative to where the game is today. So if this card were to have been dropped late March, early April, yeah, there's likely diamond tournaments that this could be played in, and even main leagues that this could be played in. And so, oftentimes, Kidneys, you and I are sitting here saying, nope, not enough, can't play in the meta, not something you want to have. And that's because we're at the very end. It is very difficult now to dent the established metas for cap tournaments, for diamond tournaments, for main league play. And so the threshold, to cross that threshold, you really need to be a well put together card that ticks a lot of boxes. And so a card like this just doesn't do that.
Yeah, we are at the end, right? It's over. It's done. Finite. This is kind of the end of Perfect Team 21 content. So it's really, if you're not going to make the meta today, you're never making it, right? So if a card isn't playable in Diamond and Cap in Perfect League as a Diamond card, it's really never going to be played now, which is kind of an interesting thing to say. It is, it is done. We've gotten through it, man. It's been a crazy year for a lot of us, so it's pretty cool.
Next, we've got Bob Johnson, and what do we have? We have a return of the Big Bird. So a couple cards ago, we had a little bird, and now we've got a big bird here because we have an even more pronounced power profile here driving the card. And significant power with substandard contact leads to some problems, which Mr. Kidneys is likely to expound upon here in just a minute. But in addition to the power and contact problems, the avoid K also substandard here for a card that's not going to give you much in the field. 57 range is basically, at this point in the game cycle, DH level outfield range. And so the fact that it's got 32 stock defense in center in addition to the 74 in left is really not an asset here for Bob Johnson.
Yeah, Bob Johnson is just not going to make the cut. One of the reasons is his very unfortunate batting profile, and where low contact, low avoid Ks, high power. It's kind of a BABIP nightmare. And that defensive range is probably about at least 20 points too low to see play. So
I got to say, though, hat tip to Daniel Wallner. This might be my favorite card art type in the game. The kind of cartoonish,
little legs.
Yeah, the cartoonish big upper body with the faux face and then the skinny legs, and you see like the little character behind him for the faux ballpark there with a little light stanchion, some bushes or whatever those are. I really like that card art. That's pretty fun.
I like I'll call it the bobblehead card art. It looks pretty good. His batting stance is a little peculiar, but I like it. I like the big head.
I think he's post stride there. So he's a long strider, clearly, and he's post stride. Those hands, they've already loaded. They're about to come through the zone, and I think that's what you're seeing there. I don't think he stands that way all the time. Next, we've got Billy Pierce, a left-handed starting pitcher. And this one actually interested me a little bit more than most that we've seen so far. And the reason that I was somewhat interested here is a couple of comps in the table. So this Lefty Grove 99 and this Rube Marquard 99 as well. Two cards that have been useful for long stretches of this game cycle at this point in time. Not main league ready anymore. But on the diamond scene, I wouldn't be surprised if a Billy Pierce in this profile still has some run to it. Especially when you look at the fact that this is a reverse splits card. So what is a reverse splits card? That's a pitcher that is better against the offhand, or at least has better backup card ratings versus the offhand. So versus right-handed pitching, right-handed batting, he's got 2 more stuff, 2 more movement, and 1 more control, which the reverse split profile, as we've seen all game cycle with Carl Hubble, with Christy Mathewson, and a whole host of others, can be an asset as you walk into heavily platooned lineups. What do you think of Billy Pierce?
I think it's probably a card that sees some diamond play. He's 97, so he fits, just in the diamond tournaments. And when you're really your top comp here, we have on both sides of the ball is Rube McQuarrie. It's a pretty good place to be as a left-handed pitcher. So I think he could see some play in tournament scene. Not probably the highest level of perfect team play, but certainly a gold and below card that could start for you if you need it.
So we've got some folks in the chat talking about how Shoeless has hit the auction house. What's it listed at? Is Port Dog here reporting the auction house price at $4 million?
Correct. It is up for $2 million of starting bid, $4 million buy it now for 10 minutes. Wow.
And then what is the collection? What do you need to get it?
The collection is you just need 2 cards from the Plaque-worthy set. So realistically, 2 diamond cards from the new set of, there's 7 diamonds and 2 perfects.
How on earth did someone already open 2 of those cards? What kind of luck is that? That's insane.
There's already been a ton of the diamonds hitting the auction house. Everybody has been waiting to rip for the past few weeks for the end of the cycle. We got diamond our big finale and Shoeless, Joe Jackson, and diamond packs are the thing you're looking for. So I think tonight, if you have perfect points to spend, diamond packs are the way you're going to want to go.
Yep. You're going to hit some of these, or you have a much better chance of hitting some of these, and these are the ones that are going to give you some massive early boost as they are building towards Shoeless, either for you or for whomever you sell it to in the auction house. Next, we've got Rob Nen. My favorite part about Rob Nen, and this is talking to IRL Rob Nen, it was his very unique delivery. So Rob Nen was one of the first pitchers that I can remember that had a delivery where there was some extra life, if you will, in the footwork. So as he was a right-handed pitcher, he lifts his left leg and brings it towards the plate, but before his plant foot got to its final location, he would basically drag it on the mound. So lift it up, and then in the process of getting to the final location, kind of dragging it on the mound, which served as a huge distraction and a wildly unorthodox delivery and unorthodox view for the hitter, and he was a very effective closer. And as we look at this card here, as far as being a diamond reliever, I think this can be an effective card as well. Maybe we're a little light on stuff for where we like to be, but with the movement and control versus the strong side here, his strong side being right-handed batters, I think he's going to be pretty successful as compared to the other diamond relievers of his ilk.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good diamond reliever. I think you'll certainly see him in diamond tournaments once he gets out there. Pretty solid card, V right, a little weak V left, but not too bad for a relief pitcher. And then he's got ground ball profile, which I personally still like, though it's a little bit debated now. And his comps are pretty good. Comparing to Rod Beck's not terrible. Bruce Sutter, he's just a little bit lower on the stuff. So I think this is a pretty good, pretty solid diamond card here.
So let's talk for a second there about the impact of being a ground ball pitcher or a fly ball pitcher. What can you tell us about what that means to your observed statistics or your modeled statistics, whichever angle you want to take, in terms of the effect on BABIP and in terms on the effect of your overall effectiveness as a pitcher?
So in real life, ground ball pitchers have a lower BABIP against than fly ball pitchers do because bigger range outfield. But actually in perfect team, it's the opposite because of the level of defense. It actually ends up being that fly ball pitchers have a lower BABIP. It does not increase home runs, as far as I know. And it's just kind of like the best option. But I also think ground ball is better than neutral in the fact that if you're running a very strong infield defense, you're still going to lower your BABIP overall.
Next, we've got Harry, and I know that Chris was criticized for mispronouncing the last name, but I didn't hear what he said nor what it was corrected to. So I don't know if I can risk my streak of not mispronouncing one yet on this stream on this card. I might leave that to you, Kidneys, to take a gamble with it. But as we look at Harry here, we have another card that is reverse splits, and this one's pretty significantly reverse split. So this is a left-handed starting pitcher who's got 8 more stuff points versus right, 7 more movement points versus right, and 2 more control. I think that's going to make this card a very interesting diamond arm that could be deployed as a straightaway starter. Now, I don't know exactly all of the names that fill up that meta today, but I wouldn't be surprised if Harry, however you pronounce his last name, fits right into it. You see that he's got a ton of hits in our similarity score table. So we've got a 99 here, and we're not even talking about main league play. I'm not going to recommend you bring him to your main league play, even though he's basically like a budget version of the Madison Bumgarner. But I think in a diamond league play, I'd be surprised if there were that many better candidates for your rotation.
So as Catch the Ball puts it, it's Bruckine, I think. And Harry is, I think, far better than just a diamond option. I think he's the 3rd best. I have him as the 4th best diamond option, but 2 of those are Maddox, 99 and 97. So I think that this card is probably your 3rd best diamond pitcher. And the second is Robin Roberts, the very rare SC card. So this card is really phenomenal for diamond tournaments as a 99. I even have him pretty closely compared to Carl Hubble. I mean, he just really lacks about 10 points of stuff on Hubble, and he's about even control and movement. So this is a really solid card that you could certainly play, probably even in diamond and up to perfect league, and then it will be a mainstay in diamond tournaments for sure.
And as I mentioned, this is a knockoff version of the Madison Bumgarner card that still does get some play within Perfect and definitely plenty of play in Diamond. And it's not too different than that. So versus right-handed batters, this is basically Bumgarner with 4 less movement. Actually, 4 more movement. Excuse me.
Yeah, he's better than Bumgarner.
So he's even going to be better than Bumgarner. So I think, yeah, definitely an interesting card and one that can moonlight on your main league. For Harry Bruckine.
Bruckine. It's not fair that they posted in the chat wrong and then you get it right. That's not fair.
Harry the Cat. Agree. I mean, Harry the Cat's a really fun nickname. Let's just stick with that.
I like the Harry Cat, sure.
What's not fun, though, is that he's a Cardinals player. Ugh. Indigestion. Next, we've got Zach Britton. And I'm calling it out right away. Whenever it's your fave, Kidneys, I like letting you bat leadoff. I like letting you wax poetic about your card before I steal any of your talking points, if I've ever done that. But this is Zach Britton. He's a 99 rated closer for the Orioles. Tell us why he's your favorite.
Because he's an absolute monster. This card's rocking, over 100 movement both ways. He's got the 90 control. I wish he had a little more stuffy, right? But I think this card is pretty awesome. I'm overhyping it a little bit because I love Zach Britton as a player. Has been, in my opinion, like the most consistent dominant relief pitcher of my era growing up as a childhood. So he's crazy. They're not reverse splits, Fabic. He's a lefty. but he's really, 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 really good. Extreme ground ball, over 100 movement. There are no home runs to be had against this lefty pitcher, which I think is really cool. Maybe he sneaks his way into the meta. Certainly will be a Diamond Tournament meta. I barely saw Mariano, and I'm more attuned to Zach Britton because he wasn't, as DRC just put it earlier, an icky Yankees player for the Cardinals. So I love Zach Britton as a guy, and I think this card is more than playable.
So let's talk about how that's going to be played. So a left-handed reliever is going to get to face about 50% lefties or better. And so that 123 stuff will be in play more often than the 105 stuff will be in play. And we know that lefties really struggle against lefties. So this is our first real true lefty reliever. And as far as comping him to someone who's in the meta in that same role right now, maybe it'd be like a Chris Sale, who I would guess has a similar control profile, a ton more stuff, and a ton less movement. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it's going to play out. In our closing segment tonight, you'll see whether he is or isn't on my my meta survivors. But it's definitely an interesting card. Whenever we get a weird card that comes out and reestablishes the max for a given category, it catches my attention, and I love to see it.
Yo, and if you want some cool, really, really cool baseball stats, go look at Zach Britton's 2016 season. In my opinion, might be the greatest season by a relief pitcher or closer of all time. It's absolutely nuts what he did in 2016.
I agree with you that season was crazy, and I would also call out that the Wade Davis seasons that he had during his heyday in Kansas City were crazy, and I think that it would be cool in PT22 to get some representation for some of these more recent, totally crazy, dominant seasons like this Britton season. This is actually a Pete card, or like that Royals pitcher as well.
Absolutely. I think it would be fantastic to see maybe some more, like, I think the term I'll use is gaming term, snowbally cards, where they're more based on like the single season, and we could see some really wild stats. Might be fun.
Next, we've got Mike Donlin, 99 rated center fielder, Giants card. He's giving you tons of defense here. Tons of defense in terms of quantity, not a ton in terms of quality. We only have 70 range here. And then the position ratings themselves don't get much over 70, even though you get stock at 4 different positions. From a batting perspective here, you have a very split-heavy profile. The contact significantly better versus right. The avoid K significantly better as well. And that cascading down to the rest of the card here. I don't think you have enough. I think the 115 contact is fun to look at. I'm guessing his BABIP is a pretty strong rating here, given that the power is lower than the contact and the avoid K is where it is. But I don't think that this card, with its defense and with its bat profile here, is one that's going to impact the diamond scene.
So it clocks in at a 97 BABIP fee rate, which, what does that put him for projective average fee rate?
You have a 235, 293 versus right?
Yep, so it's only 235, and that's just because he's going to strike out way too often. So I think Donlin is kind of cool. He's a little different, but he's just too weak defensively for you to try him out somewhere. And the Ks are just, again, too low. This is a card that's going to strike out 250, 300 times a year for you. So a little bit too weak for my taste.
Next, we've got Allie Reynolds, a right-handed starting pitcher, and just no control here. We just don't have any control. Down at 67 versus left and versus right. It's going to be stuff nutty for sure. You've got 2 real strong pitches here in the slider and the fastball. Decent velocity at 92 to 94. So this is going to bump into 140, 145, 150 territory on the stuff. But it's going to be a real feast or famine type observed stat profile with Allie Reynolds. You're going to get a ton of walks. You're going to get a ton of strikeouts. And I don't know that I have the stomach for that kind of profile.
No, it's just control too low, right? I mean, give him maybe 10, 15 points of control, and he's possibly played. More like 15, I think, minimum. But this card might be just shy of 150 stuff, and that's not going to do it for me with this kind of profile. I think you can see that if you pull up the expected FIP is just decently too high for you to play him at the highest level. I don't even really think this gets played in diamond tournaments. I think they're probably too competitive for a card that looks like this.
Agreed. Next, we've got Dwayne Ward, a right-handed closer who's bringing a ton of stuff to the party. 154 versus his same side. So a 30-point delta between him facing right-handed batters and him facing left-handed batters, and that cascades down into a 7 delta on movement and a 6 delta on control. Just 2 pitches for him, and he is a legit reliever, so we're not talking about any sort of stuff boost here. I think that this would again be somewhat of a high wire act for you in your diamond tournament, but given that the strong side is so strong, I wouldn't mind throwing Ward out there and having him being part of a right-hand specialist or someone that's eating some innings in the middle of the game when the starter doesn't go as deep as you want. As long as I have confidence that I'm going to be facing enough right-handed batters.
Just really quickly in the chat about Ali Reynolds, I see people talking about a PP generator. I think he's a little bit too low on the stuff side for that. I think there's some better options, but it's close. He's probably borderline. I wish this card was a starting pitcher because the stuff boost would be absolutely massive, coming in with 2 pitches and 96 velocity, but he's not. So I don't know if this gets seed play in V right in diamond tournaments. I don't know exactly how competitive they are. It's probably borderline there. The V right's very good, but the V left is very not. So it'd be interesting to see if this card gets played at all.
I think that the downside to it getting played is relatively low. You've got passable movement, passable control versus the strong side to go with stuff that's going to result in a ton of strikeouts. And yes, you're living with some high wire acts when you're facing left-handed batters, but that's normally pretty shielded. As we look at our expected perfect league FIP for this card, we are under 4 versus right at 3.89. The versus left suffers a bit at 5.48. But the context with which we're talking about this card is really the diamond tournament scene. I wouldn't recommend this guy in your main league. Next, we've got Eric Davis. And we've got a huge bird profile here with Eric Davis, but it's definitely still a really fun card. So let's talk about the bad first. The bad part of this card is that we do have a power-led profile. We do have unacceptably low avoid K with 51 versus left and 55 versus right. On the good side, though, we've got an awesome stealing profile, 95 speed, 105 stealing. He's going to be able to rack up 50, 60 stolen bases in a given season. And then defensively, this is your new number 1 range guy, right? From a right-handed bat perspective, he can't compete with Griffey. Griffey's a lefty. I'm not sure what the Trout is. Maybe Trout's got him beat. But at 109 range, he's got Willie Mays beat, which is the current on meta right-handed bat in center field. So that's interesting enough. And with that comes stock defense in center and left and right, lower and right field. So it's a fun card. Eric Davis is a player that I loved watching play grow up. I'm excited that he got this card. Given that it's a 100 card, we're not talking about any tournament metas here. We're just talking about main league play. And he's not going to crack that for me, but I still appreciate the card for what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a fun card. He's a fun player, but not gonna crack the meta. Just like I've been talking about mostly tonight. Avoid K is a little too low. Power's higher than the contact. Base running is really low. So I guess I could talk about base running. So how stealing base running works is speed is your how often, and then stealing is how successful you steal bases. Base running is how successfully you get the extra base. So speed is when speed is high. The stealing being a little bit higher is good, but you also need that base running to be high. So he's going to get thrown out a lot, as well as the fact that this just profile is not going to hit as you see in the expected perfect league range. And yeah, Andrew Jones, I think, is 1 point higher if you're looking at righty center fielders.
Yeah, shout out to Dogberry99 for grabbing that in the chat for me. Thanks for the assistance. And the other thing to look at is when we're looking at a 100 card, if you see 0 hits in the bat similarity score table, card's not going to hit. If this card doesn't resemble any other card currently hitting at the major league or at the perfect league level, it's not going to hit. It's not good enough. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and that's the kind of profile that Eric Davis had. Moving on, we've got Larry Doby, center fielder, Cleveland Indian. And we're talking about a platoon here, but it's platoon in the good way. So you want a left-handed batter because we're able to get that high percentage of at-bats versus right-hand pitching to really feed into that platoon. And with that bat, you've got a 109 contact. The power is the dominant profile, so this is maybe the tiniest little bird you've ever seen here, but still a bird profile. 95 I is nice to come with it, so you're going to be able to work some walks and juice up that on-base percentage. 75 avoid K, not terrible, but it's a 100 card. So this card needs to play in our main league, and to do so, it's going to need to oust one of Tris Speaker, Tony Gwynn, Shoeless Joe Jackson that we got tonight, and 82 range with this batting profile is not going to get that done.
Yeah, the issue here is competition for Larry Doby. It's not the worst hitter v right. It's certainly not good v left, and then the range is pretty weak. So for a card you have to platoon one side in the outfield against current competition is just not going to make the cut, I think.
Next, we've got Ralph Kiner. Nothing's finer than this Ralph Kiner. Actually, maybe some things are finer. This is a huge bird profile. 140 power plus, depending on the right and left here. But power is the dominant trait, and the contact is not near enough to counterbalance it. And with a card like this, we've seen it be relatively successful when it's got an off-the-charts eye, like a Barry Bonds, but this card doesn't possess that. So, interesting card, but again, with the outfield range being what it is a DH only, and this card is not going to hit better than Ty Cobb. It's not going to hit better than who people play at DH, so I would not rush out to get this one.
So if anybody still plans on doing entry pool, I think this card is pretty viable in entry pool. Him and Mel Ott, I don't know how successful Mel Ott was, but I know there was a lot of talk about Mel Ott when he came out, the historical perfect, about being a good entry pool card. And this card, I think, is just a little bit better than the Mel Ott. So I'd be interested to see how an entry pool run looks with the Ralph Kiner.
And someone calling out in the chat here, Hero Driver 68. Look at this base running. Have we seen a card with a worse base running profile than this? 7
Yogi
speed, 9 stealing?
I think Yogi's pretty close, but this is certainly a card you want to turn off stealing and go for extra base. That's
6
for sure.
base running, 6 sack bunt, 1 bunt for hit.
It looks like he was all or nothing, that's for sure.
This might be our worst base runner in Perfect Team. We're going to have to check Yogi. We got to give someone that crown.
Let me do some digging real quick.
Do some digging as we close out the set here. So this was the set with no name. Kidneys went ahead and claimed Zach Britton as his favorite card within it. I'm saving my fave for the set to come here. But a lot of cards. We got 18 cards here. No rhyme or reason to them. 18 no-name set cards. All right, what you got, Kidneys?
Lou Bordeaux clocks in at a 4.13.6. There's both Yogis. Yogi is a 4.10.6. So I feel like that's almost worse, in my opinion, is a 4.10.6 out of Yogi.
All right. So moving on to the next set. Moving on to Plaque Worthy. Let me get my Plaque Worthy notes ready. My copious notes that I keep here. Troy Percival. We start with a player that I really loved watching play, but a control profile that I'm not too fond of. 76 versus left, 78 versus right. And that's going to be tough to sneak into your bullpen when you're not clocking in at ridiculous stuff. And we're just at 129 and 131 here. And then when contact does happen, only 82 and 83 on the movement. So I think this 95 Troy Percival is not going to be a diamond card that is impactful at that level.
Yeah, it's just kind of low statted, even for a 95. I think there's some better options out there. You can see some of the comps are really cards that don't see play. The V right of Al Holland is the weak side of what's a pretty good card, so I don't really see it out of him.
Expected perfect league FIP on this one, 469 versus right, 534 versus left. Our target for a right-handed reliever would be a FIP versus right under 4, and then a FIP versus left under 5. And so we're missing both benchmarks here. So we will move on to the next card, which is Burnt Campaneris. A fun card. It's got an old meta glove at shortstop. This basically looks like all the key shortstops looked in the early game. Your Huey Jennings, your can't say Appling because Appling had the weird error rating there. But this is what shortstop profiles used to look like from a glove perspective. Now the shortstops never looked like this from a bat perspective, with a worse than Ozzy like slate of traits here, both versus left and versus right. So not a card that's going to get a lot done with the bat, even though the glove is going to be certainly passable at the diamond level, if not good. And then the base running is going to be adding values as well.
What do you mean? He's got Jackie Robinson V left. Oh, that's the 73. Yeah, he doesn't really hit. Very low statted hitter. Excellent base running. Excellent sack bunt if you're into small ball. But defense is a little weak, I think, for a small ball type build. We're kind of in the meta of like 106, 108 range shortstops right now is really what you're looking at. And so I don't think it makes the cut even as maybe a second baseman just because the hitting is so weak.
Yeah, so the Gold Glove set of cards that was dropped that included Mark Belanger, that included Rabbit Marinville, like all of those are just objectively better than this card. You would play those over this 10 times out of 10 and not look back.
Even the Brooks Robinson's a much better fielder in my opinion, so...
Well, the Brooks is 100, so just talking about diamond cards that can fit in
for
that
diamonds.
world.
Yeah, absolutely. Even Vizquel, I would rather play, which is like a 50K card. And this card will be very expensive because of the Shoeless Joe Jackson set. So,
quick call out to Not Clutch in the chat here, subscribing for free with his Amazon Prime account. If anyone else is looking for a free subscription, you can leverage your Amazon Prime account to do so. Next, we've got Kenny Lofton, one of my favorite players from that era. Loved him when he was on the Cubs, for sure, and loved him when he was on the Indians as well. And this card here is coming with a little light on the range. I was hoping that we'd get this card and we'd see something north of 100, and I thought that might be able to make some noise in the Diamond Tournament scene because he was going to have great base running, and the profile was going to have a good shape. And by good shape, I mean nice contact, low power, and then some pretty decent avoid Ks. We got some of it, but did we get enough?
I think the question is, did we get enough for a diamond tournament? And I'm not sure we did. The VL is very weak. The V right looks pretty good. He's going to have a crazy high BABIP. I can check that real quick. And the fielding is just north of Ichiro. I'm trying to remember who's the diamond center fielder right now because the issue with this card is it only has center field stock rating is really the hard point on this card. So its BABIP is a very respectable 85 V right. If somebody plays diamond would like to help me out, doesn't beat Ashburn. Oh, I forgot about Ashburn and Blair. Yes, so definitely not going to be the top option in diamond tournaments and not a budget option either, again, because of the Shoeless Joe. So probably just going to stick as a collection piece, though. A very interesting and a very fun card with all that speed and defense.
So what's Ashburn at defense? Is he 99 range? 100?
98 range. So
98.
He's going to be about the same as a fielder and certainly a much better bat. Mm-hmm. So
moving on, we've got Carlos Delgado and another bird. This one maybe should have been a smaller bird. I gave him the big bird here. Maybe that was a bit too punitive, but we do have a power-driven profile here with 115 versus right, and that contextualized with 103 contact and 71 avoid K. So definitely a power-first profile here. 99 rated card, first base only defense, arguably DH only level defense here, and a card that I don't know is going to hit better than the existing options like a Roger Connor. I can tell you definitively this card will not hit better than a Roger Connor, and if that's who you're trying to displace in the diamond meta, you don't really have a chance at it.
Hey, we got a hitter hit, in our similarity score, and it's a righty v righty, and it's a 0.7. Obviously, because he's a lefty, he'll do a little better than K-line v right, but I'm not thrilled with this card's options. It just too low contact, too low avoid Ks. Look at another card with abhorrent base stealing plaque, and then the fielding is like you said. I mean, he's tall, so making 78 at first base isn't horrible, but we actually have some pretty good first base defenders nowadays, and I would be surprised if this card wasn't in a negative there as well.
JZ13 in the chat saying that this card has already sold for $320 on the auction house.
Yeah, so this one sold for $320, and Burt Campanera sold for $500. So I'm assuming that's the first shoeless Joe Jackson. That is, I guess, steadily now at buy it now for 2 days at $2 million. So that guy's trying to flip for some perfect points right now, it seems.
I mean, if the components are coming into you at a combined cost of $820, why is someone going to launch out $2 million to buy the card?
It's pretty ambitious flip, especially because that's probably the highest price you're ever going to see for those component cards as well, right? So I would pretty much expect the shoeless Joe Jackson to settle a lot lower. Obviously, there's first day hype and wanting to compete now. Yeah, I agree, RT. The 320 on Delgado is probably an undersell. And you'll see it. I mean, I would be surprised if the first shoeless, doesn't sell maybe for like some absurdly high number, but I don't think 2 million is going to be the case.
Yeah, I think, and maybe we're just talking out of our butts right now, but I think that the shoeless Joe is not even going to stay at $1 million. I think he's going to be under $1 million very, very quickly.
Oh, 100%. I mean, all you need is 2 diamond cards, and we have diamond packs in the market, right? So
yeah,
it is not long-term, maybe even very long-term. We have to think about how many people are going to be active, but everybody right now has been hoarding to rip for tonight. I think I can agree with API that he'll be a 300K card within a week.
Moving on, we've got Bill Freehan, and we've got another big bird profile here. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this one. We've got a catcher who doesn't really have that great a defense, who is not going to hit much. Is Bill Freehan for you?
When did 91 George Brett get played in Perfect League? That's what I want to know.
I'm guessing that is not accurate.
That's what I'm going to guess too. Because that would be crazy. Because that would mean somebody played a card equivalent to this card in Perfect League. So I'm going to go with a no on this one. You can look at the expected Perfect League thing to say why. I'm also going to go with a no in Diamond tournaments. I just don't think he's good enough. That's all.
Quickly, we move to the next card. Sherry McGee. A lot of blue on this card. Whenever we see a lot of blue, we get excited. But is that excitement warranted, Kidneys?
Yeah. I don't know. This is the card I want to like because in Perfect Team 20, he had a very similar stat line and was fantastic. One of the best hitters in the game. The issue with this card is he has about the exact same stat line in a game that is very differently and very much higher statted than before. So I don't think he clears any sort of play. His defense is way too weak to play in the field. Maybe you could slap him at first base. But I don't think he hits well enough to be a Diamond mainstay. Though he does have nice running and nice bunting, but I don't think you're going to play a card in Diamond for its bunt profile. So,
agreed. Moving on, we've got Thurman Munson. And this card should pique your attention. This is a fun card. And I'm going to go ahead and spoil it right now. This is my favorite card of the night. And let me tell you why. We have had now, for an extended period of time, a catcher meta that included Mauer as the left-handed option when you wanted to focus on offense. And then we had 2 different flavors of defense-oriented catchers with Campanella and then with Pudge. With Pudge being more defense, Campy being more bat. I think that Munson will give us that Mauer-like option for the right-handed batter. Now, you could argue that pairing Mauer with Pudge is really optimal because Mauer's going to play the first 7 innings. He's got a good chance to hit. And then you bring in Pudge and you close out the game and it gives you an option to start him versus left as well, which you kind of have a natural platoon built in there for your catchers. But for someone who really wants to hit and focus on bat, I think that Munson is a very interesting card. I think he's going to have a great BABIP with that 116 contact with a power profile that's significantly less than that. And I think he's going to hit better than both Pudge and Campanella. And so I applaud this this card's entrance to the Perfect League world. I think that he's definitely going to be very interesting in Diamond tournaments. And I think that he even belongs at the main league table for someone that wants to eschew the defense first approach. And I'm not sure that's going to be me. I definitely love having Pudge in there to control the ground game and to steal some extra strikes for my high stuff pitchers. But I think this card is very welcome and something that's going to be a choice and an option for users to have diversified builds.
Yeah, I think this is an elite V-right catching option now. Really up there with Pudge and Campanella is what you're going to do. This card's got the best bat of the three, but is much weaker on the catcher ability. So it's really going to be a preference thing. Comes down to build and whatnot, I think.
Yep, and as we look at his versus left profile here, our number one comp is DJ LeMahieu, which is a bat that we really like versus left-handed bat or left-handed pitching. He's got the same contact rating, more power, slightly less avoid K, slightly less on the eye, but from a catcher perspective, definitely going to give you an OPS versus left-hand pitching well north of 700, which is something that Campanella and Pudge can't really offer. Next, we've got Adrian Beltre, one of my favorite players from that era, and a huge bird profile here as well. So we're heaviest on the power. You know, Adrian Beltre could hit for average. I'm disappointed that we didn't get more contact grade on Beltre here to give him a chance to be playable. Now, defensively, we got a bomb of range, 102 range for Adrian Beltre. I mean, the majority of his career, he was carrying around a good bit of weight. Now, he was playing an excellent third base. So defensively, he was absolutely living up to the bill here. Just a range rating that high that can be deployed at second base, for example. That's not the Adrian Beltre that I remember. But unfortunately, as you'll see with the expected Perfect League triple slash here, he's just not going to hit. And if he's going to be playing third base for you because that turn double play is kind of low, the infield range kind of low for what you need in the middle infield, you just need better bat than this. And that low contact is not going to let it happen.
Yeah, really, this card is pretty fine if it had a good 10, 15 more points contact on it. That's really what it would need for this model to be playable, something similar to Nap Loiseau. You give him that contact, and with this defense, he would be a very playable option. So I'm a little disappointed. Beltre is one of my favorite players growing up. I loved watching him play, and he's fantastic defensively as represented here, but the offense is just not quite cutting it in Perfect Team.
I mean, who didn't love watching Adrian Beltre and then Elvis Andrus mess with one another in the bullpen or try to rip his helmet off or try to touch his head? That was just a fun team and a fun era, and Adrian Beltre, just one of the greats.
Are you as sensitive of having your bald head touched as Adrian Beltre was of his?
More sensitive, don't you dare. Next, we've got...
Was that Pet the DRC meme nightmare fuel for you?
Oh, it was. I haven't slept since. That's why I'm getting angrier and I'm getting more irate and just getting a little quicker to the temper. But speaking of quicker to the temper, we've got angry Bobby Gritch here. Didn't someone put in the chat on Chris's stream the Gritch who stole Christmas or some sort of pun like that?
Yes, somebody did the Gritch who stole Christmas. I loved that.
Well, this Gritch here is another bird profile. We've got a recurring theme tonight. We've got a lot of birds tonight, and here's another one, and this one's pretty darn big with power over 100, contextualized against avoid K sub 50 and contact sub 90 versus right. So I won't spend too much time talking about it. Second base card with sub 90 or with 90 range, and then a bat profile like this doesn't interest me too much.
Exactly. I think I'm looking at the comp scores, and I just got a flashback to back when I thought Paul Goldschmidt would be a good card this cycle when I first saw him. And man, was I wrong. So shout out if you were playing with me when I played Paul Goldschmidt. That was a wild ride.
Next, we've got our last card of the night to talk about, and it's a behemoth. Shoeless Joe Jackson. The starlight of the night, for sure. 128 contact versus right, 128. That's a new high watermark, I believe. And we've got 118 power there, so the power is less than the contact. The avoid K is all the way up at 100. The I is at a usable 80. So this card is going to crush right-hand pitching. I'll go ahead and pop up the expected perfect league triple slash here. This card is really going to hit. It's going to hit righties, and it's going to hold its own versus lefties. It's not going to walk a ton. And then the average is going to suffer a bit there, but it's going to hold its own. And as we know from left-handed batters, even when they face left-handed pitching, they're still facing a right-handed reliever more often than not later in that game. So starting him in that game where you know that he's not as deadly versus left, he's oftentimes going to get an opportunity late game versus a right-hand pitcher, which can sometimes make it worth it. But we're just talking about the bat. Let's shift over to the other category. So base running, we've got about a league average runner from a speed stealing perspective, but the base running is up at 100. So we're going to get some decent BSR out of him, or base running runs. And then defensively, this is where this card becomes a bit of a difference maker. We've got 93 range. This is more than Tris Speaker. This is more than Tony Gwynn, face of the franchise. It's more than Joe DiMaggio. And that means that this card is ultimately playable here. You've got a Cobbian bat, a potentially Ty Cobbian level bat, and better than Tony Gwynn level defense. Just a behemoth of a card. Everyone wants one. If you are setting your ghost ship lineup for the next 12 months to go out and win as many diamond leagues as you can with that ghost ship, it needs to have Shoeless Joe Jackson in it.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been on record many times saying that Tony Gwynn is the best hitter, not Ty Cobb. And I've taken a lot of heat for it, but I stand by it. My model now stands by it. But then I put in this card. It's not even close. This card is number 1 V right by a literal mile, and number 23 V left, which is better both sides than Ty Cobb is. And I think this card is absolutely nuts. I don't think there's anything close to him in the game right now. I think this is the new meta-defining card, and I am so excited to see this bad boy in action next week. Yes, wait till next year. This is the new greatest of all time. If another very cool baseball stat, I was looking at Shoeless Joe Jackson's stats, and it's such a shame the man got banned over what was probably fake allegations, because he had so much the potential to be the greatest hitter in baseball history.
So there you have it, our plaque-worthy content set. I picked out Thurman Munson as my favorite card, but Shoeless Joe Jackson is absolutely the headliner here, and one that you need to get into your lineup. Your team is going to fall behind, and not to fall on a Discord trope of another user in the community, but your team will definitely fall behind those that have him if you are not able to get Shoeless Joe before you set it on Ghost Ship mode and divert your attention to PT22. So that should absolutely be on your to-do list before you shut things down, if at all possible. Any other thoughts on the plaque-worthy set here, Kidneys?
I'm excited. I'm also really excited it's accessible. This is a mission for the people. This is not going to be some super expensive card. I mean, it'll still cost you a few $100K, but compared to some of the mega cards of the past, I'm really excited that this is one that even a player like me can feel is pretty much in their budget range to get. So I'm excited to get my hands on one myself.
So that is plaque-worthy, which means that we are now at our 7th inning stretch. What is this? What do we have here? Episode 18, last episode of the year. We finally get some music for our OK Boomer, OK Zoomer game. If you're just joining us for the first time, the way that this game goes is we show Kidneys, born in the year of 1999, things from the 90s for him to identify. He either does or doesn't. And then he shows us a Zoomer meme from today. And we try to make sense of it. And based on who does better, either he or I will win. And sometimes we have to rely on the brilliance of the community to make that call. So let us get started tonight. Remember, the theme was snack time. So Kidneys, what snack that ruled the day in the 90s is this one right here. Now, I loved these when my mom would get home from the grocery store. If these were in the bountiful assortment of goods that came home, they were the first thing that got eaten. And we're talking about ripping through 5, 6, 7 of these in a single setting, which definitely wasn't my mom's intention, nor the manufacturer's, but I don't care. They were that good. Now, what is this snack, Mr. Kidneys?
I have no idea. I've seen these with like cracker sticks and like cheese sauce and like Oreo sticks and Oreo filling, and it looks like some sort of cream filling with cookies. But I don't actually know the name of this.
So those are all cheap imposters and impressionists. The first person to hit the scene was Dunkaroos. And I've heard that they're coming back. I heard it. I saw a little article, and I'm sure that my Google is tailored to my boomer self and knows to target me with Dunkaroos oriented headlines. But I saw something indicating that Dunkaroos were on their way back, and I got to say, I'm here for it.
They look good to me. One of the first things you've shown from the 90s to me that's appealing.
Next, we have got a fruit drink. This one was flavored Chucklin' Cherry. But what were the drinks that were shaped like this and geared towards getting them into the hands of kids? What were they called?
I've seen something very similar to this. It was something that you'd pass out at like a soccer game, but I think it's probably more of a cheap knockoff than what this actually was. So I don't really know the name of this one.
These were Squeeze-Its, and they were the hotness as well in the 90s. I don't think that they're still around. They could be, but they could also have been bought by a much larger brand who's doing the same concept in a better and more effective way.
I think it was what we had. I'm not 100% sure. My dad might know. He was my soccer coach. So
next, and I did do 5 for you today. I thought this one might be a little hard for you, so I didn't just limit it to 3. But here for the third one, we have what was absolutely the best flavor of High C that was ever debuted. And if I could drink only this for the rest of my life, I would. But these don't really exist anymore, or not found on shelves today. Now, I'm giving away a huge hint by having the character in the bottom of this one, but what was this flavor of High C called?
the hint is the character, not the Mandarin oranges.
Do you know who that character is?
I have no idea who that character is. Now I'm lost. I was just going to go with like orange or something. I have no idea now.
So have you never heard of the movie Ghostbusters?
I have, but I've never seen a Ghostbusters. Insert all the people in chat being very angry at me for not seeing a movie.
Yeah, so this was the best flavor ever. Now that character there is Slimer, who was the friendly ghost from that series, the ghost that they kept around the Ghostbusters mansion. But I don't know that you're going to have much a chance to guess this flavor here. You wanted to throw something out?
Is it like orange slime?
It is the Ecto Cooler.
Okay, no, not even. No, okay.
So add that to the list of movies you need to watch. Now, I did do a recent rewatch of both Ghostbusters 1 and 2. And I got to say, they didn't hold up that well over time. I was kind of underwhelmed at both the production value, the writing, but it's still a classic. Still a huge part of my childhood, so put that on the list. All right, next, we've got a soda drink. Now, this was a short-lived soda drink that was effectively Mountain Dew on steroids. They take Mountain Dew and jack even more sugar and caffeine into it. Now, do you know what this soda drink was called?
Not specifically. Is it a subset of Mountain Dew or something different?
I don't think it was owned by Mountain Dew. I think it was owned by the Coke company as a competing product to Mountain Dew. And it was, I can
see at the bottom, it looks like Citrus Cleanse, but I have no idea what that is.
It was citrus flavor. The drink itself was Surge.
I've never heard of this either.
I mean, if you
that
drank...
looks terrible.
If you drank a couple of these, you'd be shaking for a couple hours. Like, it was that kind of drink.
Wow, that's crazy. That almost, I can feel the sugar rush just looking at it.
And as Xander Cantu says in the chat, it tasted like Mountain Dew with a shot of Ecto Cooler in it. All right, last, we've got an ice cream dessert. So this was an ice cream concept that came out. The Flintstones were themed with it oftentimes. I think they also had it without the Flintstones as well. But the idea was basically like sherbet ice cream inside of a tube, and then you use a stick underneath it to elevate the ice cream and give yourself a chance to eat it. Any idea what this was called?
Called the same thing, but I had these and they were called push pops. Is this that?
Ooh. Judges in the chat, do we give him push pop?
Oh, push up. I'm pretty sure they're called push pops now, which is like a much better name in my opinion than push up.
So we've got Doc saying give it to you. Wait till next year saying give it to you. Lowry, very close. Half credit. Yes, yep. I will allow it. Give it to him. All right, the mob has spoken. You will leave this game 1 for 5.
Oh, wait. No, I shouldn't get it. A push pop is a candy, not an ice cream. I thought it was ice cream.
Why are you disqualifying yourself here?
Because I don't deserve this.
Take what you can get.
I might as well be 0 for 5 today. That was painful.
All right, so that is OK Zoomer. And you're walking away with either 1 or a half out of 5. And now it's time for OK Boomer. So on the other side of this click, there's going to be a meme, and it will be my job to make sense of it. Let's see what we have. What is this? We've got a picture. I see Walnut, API, Jardine, myself, MacJax. I see you, Pidge, QUC, and Rich. Uh-oh. It's a video. Do I dare click this? What the heck? What in the world is this? Oh my god! What in the world is this? I gotta do it again.
This is my favorite one yet.
This is haunting. Oh my god.
Matt gets the center square walnut because he looks the best out of any of the deep fakes.
Wow.
So I will explain this meme. This is Dame Dane, which is it's a clip from the song Baka Matai, and it is a pop ballad that became popularized by the video games Yakuza 0 and 5 as a karaoke number during the games. And somehow that translated its way into the deepfake world, and people started deepfaking people singing this song, all the way to the point where it became a huge meme in the summer of 2020. And we have now brought it to you today as our grand finale with a bunch of the reading between the lineups people.
Well, this was fantastic. I think this absolutely is Swecky's best work yet. I love it. I will never sleep again because this is haunting. Some of those deepfakes in like given moments just look absolutely terrifying when your eye goes haywire or your cheek falls off as yours does on the far right side of the screen at a given moment. But this is extraordinary. So applause to Swecky, applause to you. And we need some judges to determine who won tonight. I definitely did not know the meme or the backstory there, but you also biffed OK Zoomer either 0 for 5 or 1 for 4. So who's taking this one?
I think everybody wins because we have Shoeless Joe Jackson and we have these terrible 90s snacks and this beautiful Baka Matai meme. So I'm going with the chat is the winner here tonight.
I think that Crash SF Giants has it. I think MacJax has it. I think Tucker 824Z has it. You and I are both gigantic losers tonight, but Swecky is an untarnished winner. Swecky is taking home the title tonight, and he wins his first honorary OK Boomer, OK Zoomer, as you and I both take the L.
Hell yeah to Swecky. Swecky deserves some awards, man. What an absolute legend he is.
So that was OK Boomer, OK Zoomer, and I think that's going to be the last time that we see it in its current form. The last couple weeks, I was really scratching the bottom of the barrel as it relates to 90s content. I don't know that we could have a whole nother season of OK Boomer, OK Zoomer in its current form. There's not that much more new stuff from the 90s, so we might just be shopping for a new concept or a new idea for our seventh inning stretch. I'm sure there's only a million different things that we could do for fun, but OK Boomer, OK Zoomer has definitely been a ton of fun to this point. What was the high or the low for you, kiddies? What are you going to look back on the 90s rendition of OK Boomer, OK Zoomer and think most fondly of?
Glad to see all the celebrities go. But the memes, man, I mean, whatever you do, we're going to make it include memes because we got to keep the Zoomer train chugging here.
You have to. You absolutely have to. All right, so that is going to allow us to ball that up, chuck it off, and it is time for PT Meta Survivor. So the idea here is to identify who has survived, who's made it through the game cycle and still belongs in a perfect team. In that perfect sense. You've got all the cards or all the relatively available cards. So, cut out your Noodles Han or cut out your PTCS Cy Young or Sandy Koufax. So of the cards that people could actually reasonably get their hands on, which ones belong in the conversation to play and which ones don't? Who survived? So we'll go position by position. And the way that we're going to do this is we are going to start with the cards that Kidneys and I agree on. And we'll talk about those, and then we'll move on to the ones that he chose, and then the ones that I chose. So first, we start with agreements. So Campy, face of the franchise. Pudge, face of the franchise. And Munson, I colored it blue because it's brand new. These are the cards that we agree are part of the forever meta of PT21. Any thoughts as to why they're Kidneys?
I mean, these are your high catcher ability, high bat cards. There are some interesting disagreements here, so I'm sure chat is going to Chat is going to point those out very soon. So we'll take a look at that in a second here.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The reason I like these guys is really the glove. First for Campy and Pudge, and then Munson for the reason that I shared when we went over his new card. Now, Kidneys, you think that Joe Carter, the 100 Carter that we got last week, you think that's part of the meta? Why?
I think Gary Carter has playability over Campanella and Munson as a right-handed catcher. I think you always play Pudge, but the reason for Gary Carter being playable is he's just got better defense than they do, and he's got a better weak side bat. So if you're not protecting him as much, he's more playable, in my opinion.
The thing that I have against Carter is that really Pudge belongs as part of your team. And if Pudge is part of my team, then I'd rather have Campy than Carter. I'd rather have Campy's one additional catcher ability. I'd rather have Campy's better bat to face left-handed pitching and actually be around a league average bat, and then let Pudge eat those tough assignments versus right-hand pitching and not expect him to hit. So I don't know a build that I would run where Carter is part of it. I know I'm going to have Pudge, and then with Pudge, I'm either going to have Campy or I'm going to have the guy that I'm about to click to, Joe Mauer. And so Munson I have in here because I feel like he provides a unique option that hasn't been there before and something that could be worth trying as going with an offensive right-handed batter catcher. But for me, it's really Campy and Pudge, or it's Pudge and Mauer. And so Carter's on the outside looking in. The reason I have Mauer here is Mauer's the one guy on this list who can put up a really big season with the bat. Who can give you an 800 OPS if the planets align for him and actually be a better than league average bat in a big sample size. Because remember, Campy's only good versus left. And there aren't that many left-handed starters. So Mauer's giving you a big sample of league average bat. And when the planets align, you get even more than that.
I think that Mauer is obsolete completely. Also, don't even bring up Ted Simmons, Doc. Don't do it to me. Because I think you want Pudge v. Wright, even in lefty cheese. I think Pudge's catcher ability and just overall defense is so good. If you're not playing him full time, you are nerfing your team completely. So I think Pudge is the most run. I think we can agree you want Pudge both sides, or not both sides. You want Pudge in any build as your starting catcher. So I just don't see the place for Mauer anymore in the meta because I want I want Pudge, and then I want Campy or Munson or Carter as my other catcher.
And I think Doc's got a great point. If you're running lefty cheese, are you really not going to have Mauer on the team?
100%. I think a lot of the top lefty cheese teams have dropped Mauer for quite a while. And I don't see him being the best choice anymore. I know some teams have experimented running Campanella both sides, even just because they want somebody that'll hit a home run and they don't trust Mauer. And he has much lower defense than the Campanella. So I think if you're not running Pudge v. Wright, you are doing yourself wrong unless you are heavily microing Pudge into matchups. So
we move on to first base. So Kidneys and I agree that all of these guys are debatably, depending upon your build, the answer for first base. Wade Boggs, Special Edition. Roger Connor, 98. He made it. He fended off everyone and is still here left standing. Freddie Freeman, Team of the Year. Cap Anson, 99. Special Edition. Hank Aaron, Face of the Franchise. And then Nap Lajoie. I think I got it that time. I got close
to it.
There's an
in there. I think it's Loazaway.
No. I went to the Baseball Reference page as we were prepping for this. I think it's.
I was told that page is wrong though, because somebody quoted it to me and then somebody corrected it in chat. So I think there's a few different interpretations of it. Simply would know because it's French, so you can tell me what it is. La joie, maybe. I don't know.
Hey, I took 5 years of French in high school. I can absolutely put a French spin on it.
I did not.
5 years in high school. Wow, that's saying something. 4 years in high school? All right, so players that you have that I don't include the Lou Gehrig Special Edition, DJ LeMahieu, Team of the Year, Juan Soto, Team of the Year, and then Pete Rose, Special Edition. Tell us why you have these guys.
Because I think we're going to see this a lot tonight. My definition of viable, I have kind of a broader meta picture than a lot of other people. Realistically, the four on the right are some of the weaker options, but I think in certain builds they can certainly be playable. So I think Gehrig brings a different type of bat than the other lefties on the picture, where he's got a lot more power. And so if you're somebody that's buffing power, which is not as common as it used to be in lefty cheese, you might want Gehrig. Or Soto is somebody that can hold his own as a lefty bat other than Boggs if you're playing Boggs at third base with both sides of the ball with his excellent eye. LeMahieu, I just have to put LeMahieu on the list because I think the card is criminally underplayed and I would love to see more of him. And then Rose is just probably, other than Anson, the best overall two-way hitter on the list where he hits both sides of the ball.
So here's what I've got against your guys. You know, if you are the defense and I'm the prosecution, here's what I've got. So with Gehrig, if I'm going for big bat lefty instead of the steady bat, which is what Boggs and Connor are providing for you, I'm going Freddie Freeman. I think Freddie Freeman, as you platoon him and get him versus right-hand pitching, he's got a lot more upside to do damage than a Lou Gehrig. And then as far as DJ LeMahieu, he's just too bad versus right-hand pitching. And it's too hard to rely on lining up right-handed bats versus left-hand pitching because you only get a couple at bats in the beginning of the game, and then a righty reliever comes in, and you're only facing one or two lefties every 5 games. So LeMahieu just doesn't fit in for me. If I'm doing a righty cheese build, I will very quickly and very easily go Anson or Knapp over DJ LeMahieu and not even think twice. And then Soto, I think Soto's defense is pretty bad at first, if I recall correctly.
He trains up to about a 50.
Yeah, so that's not great. And then the bat's not really that great either. At first base, I want a bopper. I want someone who's a difference maker with the bat. And Soto's always been someone who lives in the 750s. Now, he does a unique job of hitting well versus left and versus right, but he's not dominating either side. So I'll pass on Soto there. And then Pete Rose, the last 3 years, Pete Rose has negative bat value versus both sides. So while he's near zero, I think he's like -5 versus one side, -10 versus the other. So he's not a train wreck versus either. He's just not good enough against one side or both sides anymore for consideration for this list for me.
Yeah. I think Rose might be fair. I was not aware that he had trended downward so much. I'm pretty set on Gehrig being an option on the table. I think the issue I have with Freeman is he's so exploitable by good managers just because of his weak side splits. That would be my biggest issue with Freeman. I still think he's a top option, but I think that other lefty options need to be on the table as well.
Yeah, so looking at Pete Rose versus right, he's at -7 on bat R per 600 plate appearances. Versus left, he's at -10. So he has trended down a bit. Now, your point on Freeman is correct. If someone gets a lefty out against Freeman, it's lights out. Freeman could go a whole season without getting a hit versus a left-hand pitcher, which I've actually seen, and I've been through that. So that is within the realm of possibility. So that's first base. I didn't have any submissions for first base that Kidneys did not have, as he's definitely nicer and kinder and more inclusive in his meta than I am. So let's move to middle infield. So we're combining second base and shortstop here. And we both have Ozzy 100, Jackie Legend, Brooks Robinson Special Edition, Belanger 94, Knapp Lajoie, I think I got it, Special Edition, and then Pop Lloyd 98. Now, I talk a lot of stuff about Pop Lloyd, but I am including him in my forever meta portion for this game, so I feel like that shows a lot of character growth for myself. I hope we all recognize that. I say that facetiously. And now, so people on Kidney's side of the ledger, but not mine, Rabbit Marinville, the new Honus Legend card, Cal Ripken, face of the franchise, Luke Appling Special Edition, and then Robin Yount, face of the franchise. So why do you like those guys on the right that I don't have?
I think they're some of my options versus your options. I have some of the better hitting options. I'm surprised you didn't include the Honus Wagner because I put him on there just so I didn't have to argue about him with you, and then you didn't have him. Honus Wagner has been a big contention. I think Cal Ripken is absolutely a must option at second base, especially for a righty build. He brings a really strong bat v left. And then Luke Appling and Yount, I'm very surprised not to see. I guess if you have all the cards, you could consider Yount a little outclassed. Maybe he's slightly... Yeah, I could see Yount not being on there, but I think Appling's too consistent both sides, is like a decent enough hitter that it makes up for his weakness a little bit in the fielding area. I'm sure you have stats on it, though, so what do your stats look like on Appling?
So Appling, I do agree that he's just outclassed at this point. So whereas he once was a difference-making glove, in addition...
You mean Yount?
I mean, either way, we could talk about them both. They're both in the same bit. You know, two guys that I was playing really up until recently. I think the guys that knocked them out of the picture for me was really predominantly the Brooks Robinson Special Edition. I would rather have Brooks than either of those guys in the middle of the field, even with his low turn double play rating. And API is probably telling me I'm an idiot in the chat right now. But I just think that Brooks is going to play a better second base, and he's going to hit better than both of those guys.
I think that's fun. I think that's pretty accurate. I still think Rabbit and Cal for sure need to be on your list. I think Rabbit just because of his range and flexibility is like just a legit defensive option over Brooks if you want a little bit of a better bat than Ozzy, maybe in righty cheese. And I also think Cal, if you're more of a power hitter, I see we excluded some of my lower range options because we mixed middle infield together. So like for second base, I consider Hornsby and Jackie, the SE, kind of viable, right? As they're not at shortstop. So I think Cal is kind of a middle ground between the super range and super bat.
And I think Cal, Cal doesn't have the bat to hang around. If I'm going to do 100 level range, then it might as well have Knapp who can actually hit. Knapp's going to give you a league average bat both ways, whereas Cal's going to be -11 on the bat value. So I think that Cal, given all the cards that came out, has really been rendered obsolete, similar to. And my argument against Rabbit is that while yes, he's got great range up the middle. But if I'm going to go range heavy, why don't I put Belanger at short? I could play Ozzy at second instead. Ozzy's going to hit significantly better than Rabbit. And then, I could also put Brooks there, who's going to hit significantly better than Ozzy. So Rabbit, for me, fun card. But I think that the bat just isn't worth the pain with the glove. And I don't love the idea of loading up a lineup with so much defense. We've already talked about having Pudge behind the plate. We've talked about Belanger at short. And if you've got Pudge and Belanger, you're really going to put Rabbit out there as well? Like you're really cutting off a third of your lineup, and we haven't even started talking about center field yet. So for me, lefty build, righty build, neutral build, Rabbit didn't make the cut for me. So that's middle infield. We move to third base now. So our shared names at third base are Hornsby, face of the franchise, Wade Boggs, special edition, Knapp, special edition, and then Kidney. Oh, actually, we go me first. I've got someone that Kidneys doesn't have. George Brett, face of the franchise. And then Kidneys has Ripken, Jackie SE, and then DJ LeMahieu, team of the year. All bat leadoff here. So George Brett, to me, still is a powerful bat. He's got wildly volatile seasons. He can be a hero for you. He can be a zero. But I still think that he's an option for you if you're lefty cheesing and you want that bat out there and you either don't have Boggs or you got Boggs over at first base. I think that Brett is absolutely still an option in a lefty build. Why don't you talk about Ripken, Jackie, and LeMahieu? Or you can counter argue. Why don't you talk about Brett? Yeah.
Brett first. I played Brett for years on my team, and I'm going to point out right now, there's no way you play Brett on your lefty cheese team. Why? Because you're playing Boggs or you're playing Hornsby. There is no room for Brett. Brett is a terrible fielder. He's got like 50 infield error. I would consider him almost unplayable as a fielder because I played him for years as a fielder. He was constantly below average. I finally gave up and I went to Cupid Child to consistently outperform George Brett for me. I don't even think it's close to George Brett being playable anymore.
Over the past 3 weeks in Perfect League, Wade Boggs versus Wright is 15 bat value. George Brett is 15 as well. So
he's being babied, and
he is being babied.
That's not his defense factored in as well. But Wade Boggs is putting up 15, playing both sides of the ball probably every day.
Well, that was versus right only. So you're right when they when they go complete splits, including both right and left, he's definitely better. If you look at George Brett, in terms of how he was just deployed natively, he's at a 6 bat value, which is good. That includes 79% of his plate appearances being of the favorable variety. So we're talking about 100% platooning of Brett, which is what I'm advocating for here. That he belongs in a lefty build only when you either don't have Boggs or you've got Boggs at first base and don't have a Roger Connor or a Freddie Freeman.
I'm not sold on Brett. I think he's like a first baseman at best for defensive value, and then he's just outclassed his bat. I have some better righty options on my table than you do, which is interesting, but I think I also included Hornsby as a first baseman, which might be our disagreement on who can play third base here, because I think S.E. Jackie and Face of the Franchise Ripken are two of your best options in righty cheese at third base if you're not playing Hornsby at third, if you want to play Hornsby at first. So, and I put LeMahieu on there because I just love LeMahieu and I wish people played him. Please play the card. It makes me happy.
So in poking holes at your Ripken here, same feedback that I had at second base. Like, he just doesn't hit enough to play corner infield. And then if you do want to play in there, you can get the same defense and a much better bat out of Knapp. And Jackie, Jackie's at the point now where he's a slightly below average bat. So he's going to run a bit. He's going to provide you some BSR so you can drive value that way. But his glove has certainly been passed. Every name that you have on here with Boggs and Knapp that's going to be better at defense, and then Hornsby's going to be a much better bat despite having slightly worse defense. So I think that at the end of this game cycle, I do not have a spot for Jackie Robinson, which pains me to say. One of my favorite cards in the game. I just can't find a spot for him. I ran righty cheese last week, and he was not part of my build. I don't know that he belongs there anymore. And we do have the new Jackie 100 Legend card that we both agreed was part of the middle infield build, and there's not a ton of those in existence, and the ones that do exist cost a ton of perfect points. But for me, Jackie SE is just no longer part of the meta.
I think Jackie SE reigns part of the meta, even as a second baseman, is you can go full offense with him. I think Knapp is the competition for Jackie SE, but Jackie SE might be more of a consistent hitter rather than high ceiling, low floor than Knapp is going to be. But another reason is there's probably only 4 or 5 of the historical legend Jackies in play right now, and I don't see that number hitting probably over 30 or 40 to fill a perfect league before the game ends.
So that is third base. We move on to the corner outfield. Kidneys and I are in agreement on a long laundry list here. Ty Cobb, face of the franchise. Gwynn, face of the franchise. The new shoeless special edition we got tonight. Tris Speaker. Hank Aaron, face of the franchise. Joe DiMaggio, face of the franchise. And Ricky Henderson, face of the franchise. Now, I have Al Kaline as part of this list. What am I thinking? The card that's in the biggest distribution without ever being quick sold, as we learned tonight. And Kidneys has Barry Bonds Special Edition. I'll start with Al Kaline here. As we look at the past 3 years in Perfect, he's actually straight up out-hitting Joe DiMaggio. And we know that he's going to be a better defender, significantly more range than him. And I think that there's really an interesting choice there for righty cheesers. I think that Kaline might just be the play over Joe at times. So maybe I should have manned up and made a decision here between DiMaggio and Kaline and picked one and really drew my line in the sand. But if I'm doing a righty cheese build next week, I'm going to be thinking about these two guys and making a tough choice between the two.
So if you're playing righty cheese, there's another right-handed. Actually, there's 2 right-handed hitters in the corner outfield that are also on the list. Why are you playing Kaline over Ricky or Hank in a corner?
Well, Ricky can't hit at all versus right-hand pitching.
But he walks, and he'll steal you a base a game.
He's not walking as much as you think he is.
I think Ricky, for me, is maybe not playable both sides, but if I'm going to be playing someone in the corner, it's probably going to be Shoeless or Gwyn, even in righty cheese. And then maybe on my other side of it, I flip Ricky in V right. And then Hank, I think you can also flip, or V left rather. And I can flip Hank in V left as well if I need to. And I just think Kaline's bat and overall potential to score runs is so much worse than Ricky. So I think he's a good D-sub. But I think Ricky's ability, even just to pinch run off the bench for you, is like so much more valuable than what Kaline brings to the plate.
I think you're right that Ricky belongs off the bench. He's got a 290 on base percentage versus right-hand pitching. He's not going to be getting on base. He's not going to be stealing base. You can't steal first base. He belongs on the bench. And then when Al Kaline goes ahead and gets a single in the bottom of the 8th, you bring Ricky in and run for him. Or when you have a left-handed starting pitcher, go ahead and sit someone else and then have Ricky be in the starting lineup then. So to me, if you're building a righty cheese build that's going to have people come into your stadium and throw nothing but righties at you, I'd rather have someone who actually has a chance of hitting them, and Kaline has a better shot than Ricky Henderson does.
I Well, for righties, certainly. For lefties, it's not the case. I actually have them dead even on pretty much every metric, where Ricky has a little bit lower average, but he has a higher on base percentage. And then K-Line has very slightly higher slugging. V righties, it's not really close. K-Line does. Actually, it's pretty close. And I have. Oh, look at that. I have Ricky Henderson higher than Al K-Line V right as well.
We need to work on that model, kidneys. That model is bunk.
I have a significantly higher on base percent, so I would suggest that people who are playing K-Line are probably babying him. That's what my data would suggest. So,
Yeah, as we look at the two, K-Line is coming in at 41% favorable at bats, which would suggest an everyday deployment, whereas Ricky Henderson is at 50% favorable, which would be more platooned, but still getting some tough at bats out there. All right, so you've got Bonds here. Why do you think Bonds belongs when we've got four other lefties in the middle of the screen?
because in a lefty power build, when you have Shoeless, Joe Jackson, and center field, spoiler, I do. API is already contesting me on this one. But Shoeless Joe Jackson plays center field. You put Tony Gwynn in right field, and you put Bonds in left field and Cobb at DH in a lefty power park would be my play.
So what is a lefty power park? Is that homers maxed and average and gaps min? What's a lefty power park?
You could probably gap min and then average homer max both sides, or not both sides. You could homer and average max free left and then min at V right. I think a standard lefty park nowadays is average max VL, gaps maxed, and power minned both sides. So,
yeah, for me, it was just a numbers game. You know, the Bonds card is producing pretty decent numbers. It's an 8 bat value over the past 3 seasons in Perfect League. It's just that everyone above him is a lot better. Cobb, Speaker, Gwynn, and then now Shoeless. There's 4 seats, and I've got 4 people that I like significantly more than Bonds, even if I tinker with my stadium build. So for me, Bonds is on the outside looking in.
I think if you're ever playing Cobb in the outfield, you are mistaken, because you're putting probably, I mean, Shoeless has too good defense for me to put in the outfield, but then you're putting Cobb is generally going to be your best bat that doesn't play the field, and so you want to DH him at least half the time so you can get the maximum amount of games played out of him. So I think it's a heavy mistake to put Cobb in the outfield, which is why I don't really consider him too much of an outfielder, even though I have him on the table as an option. But
yeah, I'm just saying it's a numbers game. So if you're running a lefty build, between your corner outfield, your center field, and your DH, you can max out at 4 non-infielders, with 3 outfielders and then a DH. And we've got those 4 staring you right in the face with Cobb, Gwynn, Shoeless, and Triss. And that's before we even get into the debate of if Shoeless Special Edition can cover the ground needed in center field. So for me, Bonds is out, and probably Triss is out too once we get to the center field debate. But we'll save that for then.
so I think that Bonds is better than Speaker in a power build. I think almost all the lefty parks you're seeing now in Perfect League are not a power build. And so I think that's hurting Bonds a lot when we're evaluating the meta. So I think Bonds is for sure a viable option in my opinion.
All right, well, let's jump to center field. This one doesn't have as many candidates. We start off with a right-handed batting Willie Mays, face of the franchise, a left-handed Griffey, face of the franchise. Both of us agree that he belongs in your center field meta. And then Kidney's got a couple new names here. He's got Richie Ashburn, the special edition diamond card, and then our new Shoeless Joe Jackson. He's saying that he belongs in center field. Kidneys, defend your wild assertions.
So you can actually put Griffey on your side of the board if you have the ability to do that. I did not put Griffey down. I did not put Griffey down on my list, and here's where it gets fun.
Oh no, Kidneys is ditching Griffey.
I did not have Griffey on my list.
I'm gonna update it right now. You start saying whatever garbage you're gonna say, and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna have this updated, and we're gonna talk to it.
I also had Ricky Henderson as my right-handed option.
I'm I'm just
So I have 3
blatantly
extra
ignoring what you have here, I guess.
um, yeah, so I think Griffey is gone. I think the terrible bat that has plagued us all and the AI's favorite pinch hitter can finally be excluded from the lineup. I think Shoeless Joe Jackson is here to stay, and even if you want to left the outfielder, please play Richie Ashburn. Richie Ashburn is the best probably card that sees very little play because of the high competition as a left-handed corner outfielder. I think 98 range is more than serviceable if you want something more than what Shoeless Joe offers. I hate Griffey as a card. If you really want high range in center field, just play Willie Mays even in lefty cheese. That is my opinion on how much I hate Ken Griffey Jr.
I can't believe what you're saying right now. Ken Griffey Jr., who the only person who loves him more than I do is the artificial intelligence engine of the game who wants to pinch hit him every opportunity it ever has. But Griffey's coming out there and he's catching the ball. He's catching the ball for you. He's chasing everything down. He's got the incredible range. He's putting all these guys here to shame with his range and all the balls that he's getting to. And in addition to that, in your lefty build, he's going to pop 25 homers. A lot of those homers are going to win you games. A lot of those homers are going to be difference makers for you. And as you have teams come into your park and they're trotting out a Tom Seaver or Greg Maddux, wouldn't you rather have Griffey out there than a righty?
Nope, I'd rather have Willie Mays. 10 out of 10. Willie Mays will still walk against wrong matchups. He'll give me a strong-sided bat when people try and get a good matchup on my team. And Willie Mays is just overall, I think, a much better player than Griffey is, who strikes out way too often for my taste. And also, don't be a Yankees fan. Don't overvalue home runs, sir. Don't do that to me.
So as we look simply at versus right-handed pitching plate appearances in Perfect League, I've got 39,000 Willie Mays plate appearances and 18,000 Ken Griffey ones. And would you believe that in that sample, Ken Griffey was better than Willie Mays?
Well, yeah, because one's being platooned and one wasn't, right? Or is this both weak side for
This
Mays?
is just
right?
for versus right.
Well, yeah, sure, he's going to be a little bit better, but I think Mays is just much better overall a fielder. You free up a platoon spot. You have a strong side bat. When people bring in the lefties versus you, I think it's good. That's my opinion.
Well, I mean, the Griffey defense delta between him and Mays can't be ignored. What is it, 106 range versus 113? So over the course of a season, how many more outfield fly balls is Griffey getting to that's cutting off extra base hits than Mays is getting to?
I can't remember my metric. I'll get right back to you on that. Give me 1 minute to pull up something. API would know it off the top of his head, but I'm not that smart, so...
Yeah, so in speaking to your side here as we look at your center fielders, Ashburn has a pretty similar observed bat value to Griffey, just worse defense there. And Shoeless, I'm just not ready. I'm not ready to say that 93 range in center field is passable. And maybe that's because of what's been beat into my head during this game cycle about the importance of defense. I just don't know. I think you're going to be better off with Griffey out there, sucking up all the balls, putting Shoeless in a corner, pairing him with Gwynn in the other corner, and then letting Cobb go crazy at DH and having that lefty build produce a ton of runs, even if Griffey's only value is coming in the form of over-the-fence power in your overpowered park.
So I have Griffey, and I don't think this is entirely accurate, but just off the top of this a little bit older data, I have him literally 7 balls fielded better than Mays. So don't care.
Kidneys with a hot take in center field, and that will transition us to right-handed starting pitcher. So we agree on the following 6. Pedro, Walter, either the 100 or the Face of the Franchise Maddux, the Clemens Special Edition, the Bob Gibson Special Edition, and the Christy Mathewson. Now on kidneys, he is also adding John Smoltz and Kurt Schilling. Defend your belief that Smoltz and Schilling belong in this conversation.
How many perfect leagues have you won?
1.
How many perfect leagues has John Smoltz won?
1.
And Kurt Schilling is... Oh, he's a better John Smoltz. Ah.
This
That's
might
about
be
the
the
entirety of my
worst
point.
argument you've ever architected.
I think he's okay. I think he's a card that you can flex in and out of your gigantic 46 player perfect team rotation, and you can spot start him in a good matchup, and he's not terrible. And Kurt Schilling, in my opinion, is just a little bit better version of that because of the stamina difference. So that is my take on it. If I have to have Smoltz on the list, I have to have Schilling on the list as well.
Yeah, my beef with Smoltz is that he doesn't strike anyone out. He walks plenty of people, and he's given up home runs at an alarming rate in Perfect League. All of that boils up to an ERA well over 5. So I think, the 6 guys that you have in the middle of the screen here are all wildly available. And the reason that I have 6 here instead of 5 is that Mathewson is really who I would tap if I was going with a neutral build, because he's reverse splits, and I would ditch Bob Gibson if doing so. And then if I'm doing a righty build, then Gibson would be the answer, and I would drop Mathewson. There's really no scenario where I would welcome Smoltz and his low stuff, low movement profile, or Schilling. And I will say that I don't have any data on Schilling because no one's using him in Perfect League, so I don't have anything observed to go off of there. But I'm comfortable with the top 5 in the middle of the screen in a righty build, and then the top 4 plus Mathewson in a neutral build.
Smoltz has higher stuff and movement than Mathewson on a weighted scale. Just an FYI.
Sure, but Mathewson's going to be...
I have Mathewson, Smoltz, and Schilling 22, 23, and 24 on my list. And I think they're all pretty much just completely interchangeable. So,
from an observed perspective, we do have Mathewson clocking a 4.4 ERA in perfect, comparing to Smoltz's 5.3. But the sample size on both is not large enough to draw too wild a conclusion, so you can expect that gap to shrink some. It's just if I'm running into platooned lineups in a neutral ballpark, I like Mathewson's reverse splits. There's really no scenario where Smoltz's back of card rating is going to pull me in. So that's right-hand starting pitching. Let's go left-hand starting pitching. We've got 5 agreements on this one with Spawn, Glavine, Andy Pettitte, Madison Bumgarner, Chris Sale, and then Kidneys is adding Hubble, Max Fried, and David Price. So why don't you talk us through why you like Hubble, Fried, and Price?
I think I like Hubble for the same reason you like Mathewson, where he's somebody you can play kind of comfortably both sides, and he's not terrible. His low movement is going to be a little punishing. Fried and Price, I think Price is still my number 1 lefty v left starting pitcher. No, number 2 to Glavine. So I think you give him a good matchup, he's going to dominate. You just got to worry about the weak matchups for Price a lot. And then Fried is just an option I had when looking at my top table. I think he's certainly something that needs to be on the board for your team because he's rocking a little bit of a reverse split there almost, and he's just pretty well balanced overall. So I think Fried is a card that's kind of held back by his stamina, but if you're spot starting him, he can be a really valuable asset.
Yeah, my beef with Hubble is that his observed stats are just getting worse and worse by the week. We've got a trailing 3 seasons in Perfect League with him over 5.5. And I think the issue is that, when he runs into a lefty park, he's really vulnerable because lefties really take advantage of him. And then in a neutral park, he's just no longer differentiated enough or no longer competitive enough to really be able to run through that lineup that has 7 right-handed batters anymore in a competitive way. The right-handed batters versus left, like Hank Aaron and Willie Mays, they're just too powerful. So I remember a day when Hubble was our number 1 observed starter in all of Diamond Leagues, and it's just not that day anymore. And so I don't know where he fits anymore, and I'd rather have the 5 guys in the middle here. And then from a Max Fried perspective, yes, he's low on the stamina, so I'm not quite sure how to feel about that. I also don't have any observed data on him to know what to expect as we observe him in the field, so I'll take your word for it on that one there. And then David Price. David Price has every bit as much business in the middle of the screen as Bumgarner and Sale do. It's just he's such a difference maker in the pen that I'm not going to start him there. I'd rather be using my Bumgarner and Pettitte and Sale to burn their opens, which is what I'm often doing when I have a lefty build, than doing that with David Price. So I'll keep Price out of it, but That's the one that I probably feel least strongly about. You could easily put him into the middle. David Price is a better pitcher than Chris Sale. I just like to deploy him differently, and don't normally have him as a stock starter.
I think Hubble actually is probably my lowest personally ranked starter on any list, and I would probably actually have dropped him. I'm not sure how he slipped past into my filter for this, so I'm a little confused right now. So I'm agree with you on Hubble. I think Fried is, a lot of people in chat are drawing the comparison to Noodles. He's just a slightly worse Noodles Han. So I think Fried is a really strong option that needs to be utilized a bit more.
Yeah, and people are picking up in the chat that like Baumgartner and Pettit are in the middle, and they're not the greatest pitchers in the world. But the reality is there's not that many good left-handed starters, and there's not that many cards that can run the gauntlet that is lineups filled with Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and other cards that can really take advantage of it. And so if you're starting lefties, you're going to need to be very cognizant of the teams you're running into. You're going to need to be very much shielding these pitchers, even in situations where you are building a park for them. Like in a lefty cheese park, I don't love the idea of running Pettit out there versus a bunch of lefties. In that park, they can really kill him. So I find that lefty starting pitchers, lefty builds where you have a bunch of lefty starting pitchers are much more high maintenance, are much more high touch. You really need to be picking your spots and be shielding these guys from those moments where they can be taken advantage of by a tough ballpark or a tough opposition lineup. All right, so that's left-hand starting pitching. We move on to right-hand relief pitchers. And in the middle, we are sharing Mo, Hoffman, Walter, Bieber, Feller, Bruce Sutter, and Liam Hendricks. Kidneys has Gagne, Ruffing, and Seaver to add to the list. Why don't you walk us through why you like Gagne and Ruffing?
So I think Gagne, Ruffing are still. I think Gagne is like actually kind of undervalued right now. With kind of the resurgence of like cards like Hendricks and Suter, he got pushed down a little bit in the rankings, but I still have him 8 overall. So I think Gagne is incredibly strong. I think he's just kind of criminally underrated right now. Ruffing's a fun one that was just on the borderline for me to include or not. Super low movement VL, but in a good matchup, he slashes a 160, 180, 290, which is absolutely absurd. So I think Ruffing is one of those cards that can definitely see play at a high if he gets good matchups.
Yeah, and as we're talking about bullpens and managing bullpen arms, like you could easily be using all these guys. So maybe doing this exercise at its core of saying like these are the guys that are in and these are the guys that are out is kind of silly when we're talking about bullpens, because over the course of a season, as people get tired, as you're streaming, as you're using opener follower, you're going to have some taxed arms and you're going to be able to tap some of these guys like your Eric Gagne and your Red Ruffing. And Red Ruffing is one of my favorite guys to do something like that with, to weave in and out of the lineup as you need to grab some innings and grab some fresh arms. But the guys in the center, I just feel a whole lot better about. We've gotten to the point now where we have some really high stuff guys that also have pretty darn good control. And most of those guys are here in the middle, with Feller being the one exception. And Feller gets by because he's got just out of this world stuff. So I do think that the guys in the middle are a cut above the guys on the outside here, and the numbers within Perfect League back it up. The guys in the middle here are closer to being sub 4 in their observed ERA, whereas the Gagne, Ruffing, Seaver mix, we're talking about being closer to 4.5 on the ERA perspective. And as API will tell you, a run given up by your bullpen is worth more than a run given up by your starter.
I heavily disagree, sir. That's a matter of opinion.
Left-handed relievers in the middle, we share David Price, Steve Carlton, Chris Sale, Tom Glavine, and Hubble. And then I am bringing forth Ron Guidry, and you are bringing forth Max Fried, Hal Newhouser SE, the new Zach Britton card, and then Johan Santana. So I will admit, this pick is at least slightly sentimental. Guidry has been a horse for me so much of this game cycle, and there were 12, 13, 14-week stretch where he was the single best reliever in observed statistics. So I love him for that. As we look today, he's got an ERA right around 4 in perfect. He's really not used that much anymore, and probably with good reason there. But in a pinch, to have him open a game or to have him sit there as a lefty specialist, I still think that he has every bit of value that he can offer there as a high K per 9 lefty who's going to walk some, as some of these other names here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you left Newhouser off. Fried, Britton, and Santana are a little out there, but I have like a more expanded opinion of how many pitchers you need to be successful in Perfect League, I think, than you do. But I think Newhouser is super solid, one of the elite V left options. I think Johan, the fun part about Johan is he actually flexes as a starting pitcher a little bit in a pinch, or somebody you can pseudo with effectively, which is why I like Johan over some of the other lefty options. And then Fried, same deal. He's pretty effective. He's comparable to Noodles. And then I like the Britton card. I don't know if the Britton card is going to end up playable, but it's got the highest movement in the game. It's got respectable control, respectable stuff. I think as a left-handed hitter shutdown option, it's somebody you can bring into your pen for lefty cheese and do pretty effectively with it. So.
Yeah, I don't have too big of complaints with the cards that you have here. Just one point on Newhouser, like someone made the point in the chat that he's kind of like a lefty Bob Feller, and I just think that the lefty Bob Feller doesn't work as well as the righty Bob Feller. That righty Bob Feller is coming in, and his weakness is control versus lefties, and sure, he walks a ton of them. But as a lefty in Newhouser facing those righties, those righty back of card profiles versus left are stronger than the lefty back of card profiles are versus right. And so Newhouser just has a tougher time of it. In observed statistics, I've got him at 6 walks per 9 innings, which isn't great. And the K per 9 isn't making up for it. It's right at 12. And he's given up his fair share of homers as well, giving up over 1.25 homers per 9 innings. So just the sum of the parts there for Newhouser is a little bit substandard to me. But you hit on an important point, and it's one that I tried to make on the last slide here. In Perfect League, as you are streaming arms and as you are sequencing openers, followers, finding the right matchups, you could use every single one of these guys. You could even use some guys that aren't even listed here. But for the purposes of the exercise, I was just trying to isolate down to a stock and standard ghost ship bullpen here. And for that reason, I left the guys on your side of the Venn diagram here off. And someone in the chat asked about Lee Smith. I love me some Lee Smith, and there's definitely use cases for him. If you can get him as an opener, and I actually had this in the Discord the other day in one of the daily deep dives, if you can get him as an opener facing just right-handed batters, he's going to be great. You're going to be extremely happy with the results you get out of it. It's just the guys that are part of the meta, the guys that were in the middle of that Venn diagram, they're just more balanced cards. They're going to give you similar performance versus right and better performance versus left. So I begrudgingly left my buddy Lee Smith out. All right, so that is it. That's the segment. That is who has survived the perfect team meta and will, for the foreseeable 12 months, 13 months, be, at least in our opinion, the cards that you want to have on your lineup, whether you're going to continue actively managing or you're going to go ship it. Any closing thoughts on the segment there, Kidneys?
No, I think it's pretty good. I'll post my full list in a few places so people can see it, because we can find some things like tournaments and stuff for space. So if anybody's curious to see what my full list would be, I'll be sure to post that up for some people.
Awesome. And this next slide here is really just a thank you slide. We have been overwhelmed by the support that the community has provided to us for this little show here. We're 18 episodes in, and I can't believe it. It feels like it was just a couple weeks ago that we got started. And I just wanted to call out some of the people that have really been a part of it and have really been notably supporting the channel. Just calling out the folks that are on your screen here. The Walnuts, the Crash SF Giants, Chuck, API, MacJax, Red Eclipse, Wait Till Next Year, Fabic, Tom Budo Man, T-Chuck 4, Lipitor Kid, Luke 1111, all contributing via bits in the Twitch interface there. So much appreciation for the support and love that you guys have shown. And then the sub gifters. I won't read every name there, but you guys are awesome. And these last 18 weeks would not have been nearly the same experience if not for your guys' active involvement in the show, your active feedback. Just you guys are what makes this fun. If it was just me and Kidneys sitting here debating one another about the cards, it wouldn't be nearly the same experience. So a huge debt of gratitude to everyone who has supported the stream, to everyone who's watching here, to everyone who's following. You guys rock, and we love you for it.
Yeah, for sure. I think we need the giveaway to roll out. I'm seeing a few people mention that in the chat before we head off. And then I'm excited, guys. I'm really excited. Looking forward into PT22 as we bring PT21 to a close. We've had some really great moments. I'm sorry I'm a little low energy tonight. I just kind of hit a wall with health, but I wouldn't miss this for the world after I missed it that one time. It is a blast to get to do this. It's really surreal to be able to get to do this on Twitch and have the support that you guys put out for us. So really grateful for that. And just thank you for supporting us. Thank you for coming to the show every week and just showing up in the chat and talking with us. I wouldn't do this without any of you guys.
So the way to get into the drawing, which is open right now, and we've already got a great number of people in there, is to type !ticket into the chat. And that will enter you into the drawing. We're going to draw 3 winners, and then each of those 3 winners will get a 10,000 perfect point drawing, 10,000 perfect point allotment. And the way to get that will be to message me on Discord with your Out of the Park Perfect Team username with the appropriate capitalization, and then typically by morning time, you will have those 10,000 perfect points awaiting you to buy 1 diamond pack and then hit a card worth 500,000 perfect points. So 5 more seconds, !ticket, and then we will draw this baby up. Giveaway is closing right now. First winner in the This Week in Perfect Team number 18 giveaway is J-Ronk9. Marlins fan. Second winner, Tech15. When he's not winning Perfect League conference championship games, he is winning This Week in Perfect Team drawings. And then last, we've got Stoli314. So again, for the winners, message me on Discord with your Perfect Team username, and then we'll get you those perfect points right away. So that's the show tonight, guys. That's the show. We definitely had a great time bringing it to you. Hope you guys enjoyed watching it. I hope you guys have enjoyed all of the shows that we've had so far this year. It's been a heck of a lot of fun bringing it to you. As far as when we're back in the saddle, that's going to be dependent upon when Chris's first show will be. So I kind of have a placeholder here of March 25th. We'll see if that ends up being roughly accurate or not. But whenever Chris's first show is, that's when we'll go live. Couple things to remember. Remember that tonight we will be closing nominations for the first ever annual Perfect Team Community Choice Awards. We've already got a ton of nominations in, and I see that a ton of people have already done it tonight as well. So make sure you fill that out by midnight, and then we will announce rather quickly, maybe even as soon as tomorrow, who the finalists are for each of the awards and start floating around the survey. And the award show for that will be almost a month from now, February 25th. Right in Chris's normal time slot. So you want to make sure you don't miss that. Should be a lot of fun. But other than that, Thursdays will be pretty barren. We'll be taking a break. I will be reintroducing myself to my family on Thursdays and gearing up for what promises to be a fun ride for PT22. These episodes are going to look a lot different. As I said earlier tonight, we're at a point in the meta where the meta is so firmly established, it's so hard for a card to really dent it. as we're starting out fresh and we're starting out new next year, we're going to need to figure out what the meta even is. You know, is movement more valuable? Is control more valuable? We're going to need to be working overtime to figure out what cards are performing in what ways. And then these streams and these content drops are likely to be more consistently impactful. And we'll be breaking down exactly how much that is. So really look forward to it. Again, thanks to all the supporters. Kidneys, any closing thoughts here tonight?
Not really. If you haven't seen my stream yet, I will plug myself a little bit. You can check out, I do stream Saturdays and Sunday nights, but my big show's on Monday night where I do some fun stuff. So if you haven't seen that yet, we debuted it last week. Come check me out. I really enjoy that. We had a fantastic time last Monday doing that. I'm really excited for 22. The things I've seen looking forward towards it, just from whatever Chris has posted in the Discord and whatnot, have just got me really hyped. I think there's a lot of cool potential for this game to keep growing and for you guys to keep learning, and we can keep getting better and better as a community. And I'm really excited to see what 22 brings.
Very excited indeed. So with that, Kidneys and Kidneys, so why don't you share what time? Someone in the chat was asking what time you do your streams on over the weekend
Saturday,
as well as Monday.
Yeah, so Saturday night, 10 p.m., I just do Perfect Team and chill. We have maybe a guest on, and I just talk with you guys about the spreadsheet and about Perfect Team and what's going on in my team and things like that. Not too dissimilar from Dishnet, so this Perfect Team Weekly Breakdown or whatever it's called. And then Sunday nights, I do an offline sim with Ukraine. That is about the Red Sox. We're ruining the Red Sox, or we're running them, one of the two. That's also at 10 p.m. on Sunday. And then Monday nights, the big show is at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, it's all Eastern time.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone. We love you. This year has been totally awesome. You guys rock. This game was a ton of fun. Can't wait to dig into next year. And with that, Kidneys and DRC are out of here.